Hey, what's going on, everyone? Before we actually get into this episode, I just want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to Dilio, a friend of mine that actually just recently created my new intro and outro theme song for this YouTube channel. And Dilio's a great guy, very talented guy, music producer, has his own YouTube channels as well. So if that's something you guys are into, I totally would recommend checking out his channel, which is Dilio T2K and Dilly Gang, and I will also put both of those up with the link in this video description. So again, Dilio, thank you again. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
What's going on, guys? Thank you for joining for another episode of JB Trickle RC. In this episode, we're going to be doing something a little different that we haven't done on the channel yet, but there's going to be similar videos like this in the future, but I'm going to answer the question of what is RC racing. One of the biggest misconceptions about hobby grade RC racing competition is the fact that a lot of people think that we're still racing Walmart toys. There's a big difference between something like this versus what we actually race, okay? This is just a Walmart toy. This is one of my son's toy. This is not what we race whenever we say RC racing. A lot of people think that it is. But in fact, in the competitive RC racing world, there's various ranges of it. If you're talking oval, if you're talking off-road, if you're talking road course, if you're talking, drifting, there is a specific made and purpose-built car for every category that we're going to cover. But there's also an area that fits in almost all those sports. Well, not necessarily almost, but if you look at off-road, then paved oval and dirt oval and such, to get into it, there are affordable ways to do so. And that can range from running something that is Traxxas based or running something that's pre-owned. There's a method to get into it. And in the RC racing world, you can spend as much or as little as you want to, depending on where you want to race and what your end goal is. There's classes that will allow you to do anything. If you want to stay on the lesser expensive side, there's classes that allow you to do that. If you've never raced an RC car before, there's classes that will help you where you can learn and better yourself and you can progress further if you'd like. And then there is some top tier racing, top level classes that run the purpose-built cars that cost a lot more money than the other classes and takes a much higher skill set, takes a lot more drive, determination, and skills that you learn over time from doing this to be able to be competitive in. Now, even with those classes, I shouldn't necessarily say that they're expensive. Even with those classes, you can still spend as much or as little as you want, but to be competitive, a lot of times you do need to have some of the more late some of the later, more advanced current chassis and things of that nature. You don't have to, but it may help. So even in those categories, again, spend as little or as much as you want. One of the big things you'll find with these classes are tires. You need to be able to read the tires, things of that nature. And we'll get on that whenever we get to those classes. But first, I just want to show you and start off by saying, once again, whenever I say RC racing, we're not racing Walmart toys. Everything that we race out here are at least hobby grade, what I would call a basher or hobby grade, or purpose built. This is my Super Street car, and this is one of the ones I would call just hobby grade or basher grade. And this is nothing more than a Traxxas Slash that has had some modifications done, so it's ready for the dirt oval. The only thing that we did to make this dirt oval ready is we added limiters inside the shocks. We put on oval racing tires, and that's it. So as you can see, if you're familiar with Traxxas at all, that's what this is. It's just a Traxxas Slash. It's got the Pro-Line body mounts because that makes it easier to mount with the dirt oval bodies that we race. And again, this is a box stock Slash. The only difference is you're going to see is I am running, different springs. We are allowed to run. These are actually the Custom Works big bore springs. We've got limiters in the shocks, pulling the ride height up, or lowering the ride height, lowering the center of gravity of the chassis a little bit, because this is still the factory Traxxas high center of gravity chassis. In this particular class, we're not even allowed to run the LCG chassis, low center of gravity chassis. So this is one of the, premier classes at some of the tracks we run now, because it's cheap, it's fun, and there's some top tier guys that actually race this class just because it's fun. And with this same car here, you can run several different classes at least local tracks we're running. We've got the Super Street. They just started the new 10.5 late model class, which actually does allow the LCG low center of gravity chassis. And we also race the, a lot of your breakout guys and novice guys are running the Traxxas stuff. And again, one reason why this is so popular is how affordable it is. Because these kits right out the box, ready to run, are like $200, give or take a little bit, depending on where you get it. Support your local hobby shops. But so, you spend $200 out of box car that's ready to run for a novice class or a breakout class. Then you add some racing tires and a street stock body, you're ready to go dirt oval racing. And there's other forms of racing practice out there that runs this as well. The second one I want to show you is my two-wheel drive open buggy. Once again, this one here is a buggy platform car. We're still not at a purpose-built car. But this one here, very similar to the Traxxas in the form of it's a hobby grade, or I wouldn't even really say bashing grade. I shouldn't even say hobby grade. This is a race grade, or I guess you could call it a hobby grade chassis. But the most of the time you would see this chassis would be on off-road, because this is an Associated B6 chassis. I know they're dirty, guys. We just got done racing the Halloween Havoc race. I haven't had a chance to go through and clean the cars again. That is something I will be doing. This one is purpose-built for off-road racing, and we do some minor modifications to it to make it dirt oval racing ready. We had a lot of us run this front end kit that gives you the wide front bumper off the front car and makes it level, because normally a buggy bumper is up at an angle. We do some modifications to the rear end so we can change and mount the late model body on it. We add limiters and the shocks on these as well as running some Custom Works big bore springs once again on this car. And we're running the Custom Works slicks. In this class, they allow us to run a few different tire options. I'm running the Custom Works slicks. You can run the Custom Works street tracks. You can run the Custom Works stickers, I believe. And this is currently a SCORE approved class, which is one of our local, shouldn't say local, one of the Southeast point series that we were racing this year. And I raced a couple of their races in it. But this is a really cool car. This is a fun class. It's another fairly popular class. And we used to run the Associated B4s back in the day. But whenever Associated discontinued those cars, which was unfortunate, it was a fantastic car and very affordable as well. But the B6, it costs a little more money. These do run more than the Slash. I don't believe they offer a ready-to-run kit with this. I think it's just a chassis kit, but you can get a team kit and so on. I want to say the chassis kits for this one start around $300 brand new, a little over $300, something like that. But again, this one is made for off-road, but we did a conversion on it, a slight conversion on it to make it dirt oval worthy, and they are a blast. So this is another option you can do, and another way to distinguish the difference between toy grade versus hobby grade and so on. So that's it for this one. And now we're going to get into another one I want to show you. Now we're going to start talking about the purpose built for the dirt oval. So I went over, the Traxxas Slash, which can be used in novice, can be used in breakout. It's used in Super Street. It's now being used in the 10.5 late model class with the chassis modification. And the buggy. The buggy's popular in the breakout class and in the buggy specific classes as well. Some of our local tracks, we run late model or street stock with the buggies. It's fantastic. It's fun. And it's one of those classes that's still kind of in the more affordable range. But what I want to get into now is the purpose-built side of dirt oval. And what I have here, and the car's dirty. I just got it from a friend. Did a partial trade and purchased this from him, a good buddy of mine. But again, I raced this class already. This is a purpose-built car. You'll see these cars ran here in South Carolina, or the Southeast, the majority of the Southeast. You're going to see this car being ran in the 21.5 class or the 17.5 class. What's the difference, you ask? Both of them are currently foam tire classes, though one of our local tracks does allow a rubber tire version of the 21.5 class. But they're both primarily foam tire classes. 21.5 is kind of the sportsman version that goes up to the 17.5, and we'll call that like the pro class, the high-end class that we have here where we race local. These are purpose-built cars. As you can see, carbon fiber chassis. There's a lot more going on with these cars versus the other cars I showed you. Okay, these cars have a lot more tunability in it, a lot more adjustments you can do. I ran this class previously. I was on a Custom Works car. This is a GFRP Havoc 3.2, I believe it was. So there's a lot more going on here. I'm not going to go into too depth about adjustments and what you can do, this and that and the other. I'll save that for another video. This is what your top classes, your faster classes, and more expensive classes are running. Again, this is a purpose-built car. And to give you an example, these generally, as you can see, I've already got a servo and a motor in this. If you buy just the kit brand new, I want to say these kits are over $400. And that does give you all the aluminum you see, but that's no electronics, that's nothing. That's the carbon fiber and the aluminum and the shocks. Everything else you have to get. Now, and so needless to say, this kind of class will run you more money, but there are other options out there for you. Like I did, I didn't buy a brand new kit. I had a friend of mine that had this. He was wanting to run a different class. I was wanting to get back into the foam tire racing, so I bought it from him used. Used is not a bad option to go with, especially if you just want to try it out, especially if you don't want to spend that kind of money. You can usually find a used car out there. But if you buy new, again, guys, support your local hobby shops, okay? But this is a really good chassis, and I'm going to be featuring an episode, so you're going to see how I put this together. I'm going to go through, I'm going to tear it apart, I'm going to clean it, and we're going to do a lot of that with this car. So, and there's going to be an entire episode dedicated to getting this one race ready. And this will be a 21.5 late model car. And when I say late model, I'm going to be running this kind of body on this chassis. Now this one's set up for the buggy. I'm going to have to get a new body and get it painted, but and maybe you'll see that as part of this build process in that video when we get here. But as far as dirt oval, that's all I have for you on this. There are other car options you can run on the dirt oval side of things, but this is what I'm running. There's some guys that still run B4s. There's guys that run Custom Works purpose-built cars. There's guys that run in the open buggy class that don't have to be associated B6. There's guys running B5s. There's guys running Locies. You know, it's an open two-wheel drive buggy class. The Traxxas Slash is pretty much a Traxxas Slash in any class. The biggest difference you're going to see, like we talked about earlier, is the low center of gravity versus the high center of gravity chassis. That's about it. So I kind of covered the differences between a toy versus hobby grade and purpose-built cars for the dirt oval. And now let's go over some of that same information featuring the paved oval side of things. Alrighty, guys. So let's cover some of the paved oval side of things now. Now, I do want to start off by saying in the paved oval racing world, and including carpet oval, whenever you're running NASCAR style oval classes, there's not really a hobby grade class open for that right now. Whenever I say that, there's actually no, like in the dirt oval world, we had the Traxxas and the buggies and the beginners classes. And if some of my paved oval guys are watching this is just my opinion. I'm not coaching anything. I'm not a race director. But I almost feel like even in the paved oval world could benefit maybe from a Traxxas Slash street stock class for beginners and kids alike. Because those cars, if you wind up in the infield, you can drive it out yourself. If you have a young child trying to learn how to race in a novice class and they get stuck in the middle of the track, because in a purpose-built car, you can't drive out. They're very low. The tires are way different than a Traxxas Slash. There's not as much grip in the grass and such. So, but that's just my opinion. I'm not pushing the subject or anything like that, but I feel like that would be a fantastic novice beginners class, especially for getting young kids involved. because if they go in the grass, you don't have to wait on a corner marshal. They can drive back out on the track. But again, currently there is no such class that exists for paved oval where I race anyway. And I think the carpet oval tracks fairly local to me are the same way. They're all purpose built. However, if it's being purpose built only, that doesn't mean it can't be affordable. It can, very much so. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to my 8.0 Breakout Truck for the paved oval. I raced this truck at the Easley RC Complex. Dirt oval, I've been racing at Easley RC Complex, the Fountain Inn RC Complex, as well as the Little Indy in Spartanburg. So I'm very fortunate with several tracks to choose to race from. But again, this is a purpose-built car for the paved oval and carpet oval racing. Carpet oval runs a lot of these same cars. Now, with this Breakout Truck, what makes it a Breakout Truck is that, we covered this in one of my earlier videos, is you cannot run a lap faster than 8 seconds. If you do, you break out, you lose that lap, and you can go from first to last in the matter of a second. It's less than a second. So I went over that in another video, so I'm not going to talk so much about that as much as this is once again showing you the difference between, you know, what's truly different between a Walmart toy RC car and what we actually race whenever you hear people talk about RC racing. So in this particular car, again, this is my 8.0 Breakout Truck. This is a Hyperdrive Spec 7 chassis. I believe Hyperdrive's up to like a 8 now currently, maybe a 9's out, I'm not sure. But the Spec 7 was a fantastic car. I wanted to go with it. It didn't have some of the other features that are mainly used in the carpet world. Paved oval and carpet, there's a pretty big difference, although they do run the same cars. But again, this is a Hyperdrive Spec 7, purpose-built car. As you can see, once again, carbon fiber or graphite. It's a layered weave chassis. And again, with these paved oval cars, you can see a huge difference compared to the dirt oval cars. On these paved oval cars versus the dirt oval, you can see there's springs and shocks on all 4 corners, okay? And like an independent rear suspension. On the pan cars for paved oval and carpet oval, there's no shocks on the front, but there is still some suspension travel. There is springs, there is things of that nature. And we'll go into more of that in another video in the future. Again, this is to distinguish what is RC racing. So these do still have front suspension travel based on the springs. The rear pod on these cars have 2 side shocks and a center shock. And that's what gives you your rear pod movement and allows your rear axle, you know, the traction and move for the corners and things of that nature. Now you will notice on this car where the dirt oval had an independent style rear axle, this one is a straight axle. It still has a differential. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this camera angle too good, but the tires do turn separately, you know, as the differential should. In some cases, I don't race paved, or I don't race carpet oval. I only race paved oval. I hear some guys are running these things lot now, 100% posi rear. I can't, you know, I don't know. I don't have that experience. I don't race carpet, at least not yet. Maybe something that I'll go and do one day just for the YouTube channel. But so these cars are really unique in that way. It has a T-plate here, which also, as you can see, can kind of flex. It holds the pod in place. It's got side-to-side movement, so it can move with the pod. And you make your adjustments here by, you know, you can add or take away wedge and things of that nature. Really cool, really fun. In the Breakout class, we're actually running the CRC tires. These are a little different and unique from the BSR spec tires that we run in the other car that you'll also see here shortly. But this is another version of RC racing that I do, that I enjoy, and that falls in the purpose-built category. All right, and now we're going to get to my last car for this episode. And this is another paved oval purpose-built car, RC race car. Another one that I race on paved oval. As you can see, both of these are NASCAR spec, or NASCAR style. Each one I have a retro paint scheme inspired by Mark Martin. He was always my favorite NASCAR driver. So I like, whenever I race paved oval, I like to run a lot of his vintage style themed cars. But you're going to look at this, and on these cars too, on the truck body you saw, we had like a Lexan wing on the back to help with downforce. This is my 17.5 Monster Lock car. This is Easley's top tier, fastest paved oval race class that they currently have. Very fun class to race, very challenging class to race. But these cars are so fast, we've got to have these special wings mounted on the back for downforce purposes. If it wasn't for those, you couldn't get around the track. Now, if you're looking at this car and you're saying, well, JB, that looks very similar to your 8.0 truck, you're absolutely correct. It's the exact same chassis. This is another Hyperdrive Spec 7 chassis that I have. As you can see, my spring combinations are completely different from my 8.0 truck, but that's something we'll get into another episode. This is not an episode about setup. This is an episode of what is RC racing. So with this one here, it's got a different front end on it, but same car. You know, some of my spacing in different areas are different from my 8.0 truck, and springs are different, things of that nature, but same thing, solid axle design. The rear pod moves with your two side shocks and your center shock, and the front still has some movement, suspension travel as well due to springs and with the front end design. And we'll, like I said, we'll get into more details on these chassis in a future episode. But again, as you can see, going through from dirt oval to paved oval and the differences between hobby grade and toy grade, hobby grade, bash grade, and then purpose-built grade, there's a big difference between this to this, okay? So, and you'd be surprised, I'm sure a lot of my friends that are watching this that's already involved in RC racing is like, well, we know this. Yeah, I know you do. But this is for people that's checking this out that don't already do this, that may want to get into it. Because that is a very big, you know, a piece of misinformation. People hear, what do you do for a hobby? I love to RC race. You'd be surprised at how many people think we're talking about this, you know, a $25 toy from Walmart, which is far from the case. So the last thing I want to touch on is the transmitter. And so let me get that for you. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is the actual transmitter that we use for RC racing. So in this toy grade version that controls this, a lot of your toy radios look like a stick radio. This is actually more used in the aerial of the hobby grade world. There's some competition, RC flying you can do, quadcopters, drones, airplanes, and so on. Your stick radios are much more common in that aspect, at least around here. I think in Japan, they may use this style of radio. This is toy grade, but they actually have hobby grade, competitive grade joystick radios. But I think in Japan, they may use the stick radios for car racing. I've seen some videos like that. I don't know. But there's a big difference between that versus what we use in the racing world, which this is my personal radio. This is a Futaba 4PLS. This has been a favorite radio of mine for many, many years, and that's one reason why I'm still running it. Are there better radios out there? Yes. Are they more expensive? Definitely. Are there radios that are much less capable than this that are a lot cheaper? Yes, there is. In the prime, when this radio come out, I want to say this was a maybe $400 radio, something like that. Since then, you can still find these new. This one has been discontinued, I believe. But whenever I bought this one again, because I got back into RC racing a while back, I ended up buying this one new for $100 and something. And again, this is Futaba 4PLS. Fantastic radio. It's not the top of the line. It's more middle of the line. But there are worse radios and there are far better. I do plan to upgrade to one of the higher tier Futaba radios in the future, but not something I'm looking to do at this moment. This is Futaba is a brand I've always enjoyed, I've always liked. There's other really good transmitter name brands out there you can use, Spectrum being one of those. There's several others, but I'd say the biggest and most radio brands that I see at the racetrack generally bounce between Futaba and Spectrum. There are others, there are other big name brands, there are smaller name brands, but it's all on what you want, what you like, and what you're capable of. If you're just starting out in the hobby grade class that comes ready to run with a ready to run transmitter, I mean, start off with that. You know, you don't have to invest in a high dollar radio up front if you're just getting started. But another reason why I love this is this has a multi-model memory. I can just buy a new receiver, put it in a new car, change my memory setting, and I can use one radio for, I forgot what the model memory is in this thing, but I'm up currently to 4 cars, about to add a 5th. So, and the radio is capable of that. But again, as you can see, big difference between this and this. So there is definitely in the RC racing world a much higher price tag versus your hobby grade, or excuse me, versus your toy grade RC. But in the competitive RC world, running more purpose-built cars, more hobby grade cars, you know, there's a lot there are a lot more, you know, tunability, there's more durability and things of that nature. So that was the whole purpose of this video, guys. I know several of my friends that are going to watch this are going to be like, hey, you know, we already know what the differences are. I get that. But again, this is for any new people that may be checking out my channel, watching it, and like, well, what is RC racing? Well, this gives you a little bit of information to look into that. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I appreciate all you guys' support. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications every time I get an upload, don't forget to hit that bell icon. Guys, again, I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next episode of JB Trickle RC.